Welcome to the Boom Bap Kingdom.
Yo, peace and welcome to the Boom Bap Kingdom. We're here and we're chilling. If you do a little research, check the internet, read any magazine article on the subject, it's well documented that the first time the onomatopoeia Boom Bap was used was during the outro of Tila Rock's 1984 hit record, It's Yours. Originally released on Def Jam Records, when he ad-libbed and chanted boom, boom, bap, bap, boom, bap toward the end or on the outro of the record. Now, we know that Tila Rock was mimicking the drum machine pattern that was programmed into the song. The interesting thing to me, though, is the record, It's Yours, doesn't sound like the genre that became known as boom bap. The term was there, but the sonics, the style wasn't there. That record, It's Yours, was produced by Jazzy J and Rick Rubin. We know that the record utilized an electronic drum machine as well as cuts and scratches, which was a very popular rap production style circa 1984. You get the drum machines, you get the cuts and scratches, and that's because sampling in rap wasn't a thing yet. Now, that didn't become a thing until you get a DJ coming out of Queensbridge by the name of Marl, and his MC Shan, and they wanted to tell us a story about where they were from. And they came out with that iconic record, The Bridge. The Bridge was released in 1986 on Cold Chillin' Records. This is why that record is very significant, and we already know also, again, the story that Marl was the first to discover sampling, and The Bridge was the first time full-on sample-based production was featured on a record. Marley laid down what became the foundation for sample-based hip-hop production. When he sampled and chopped the drums from Impeach the President by the Honey Drippers and that iconic horn sample from the song Scratchin' by the Magic Disco Machine, that became the blueprint for what would define an entire genre. Now, there were many records after The Bridge that featured sampling in some form. You get Boogie Down Productions' Criminal Minded, which was released March 3rd, 1987, produced by Skholarz, Sid G, and Paul C. We also get Eric B. and Rakim's groundbreaking album, Paid in Full. That album came out July 7th, peep the God, July 7th, 1987. And then you get Big Daddy Kane's June 21st, 1988 release, Long Live the Kane. Now, Marl had a hand, obviously, in both Paid in Full and Long Live the Kane. Long Live the Kane, he full-on produced that from soup to nuts. Marl had a hand in the production on Paid in Full. The sound that we would define as boom bap still wasn't quite there yet. Sampling was there, but the sound and the style wasn't there. The question for me is, where did it come from? Where did that sound come from? And where is the point, the origin point where we say, oh, this is rap with drum machines. This is early sample-based hip-hop, and this is boom bap. what song and what album defines that? There has to be a point of origin for the genre to come into existence. So if you fast forward to 1990, we get another crew coming out of Queens. Queens was getting busy, bro. That crew is called A Tribe Called Quest. Now, this is very interesting. Their 1990 Jive Records album release titled, and they had a long title, you know. But their 1990 Jive Record release titled People's Instinctive Travels and the Paths of Rhythm, which is a pretty groundbreaking album. And keep in mind, they're coming off the heels of De La Soul's 3 Feet High and Rising, which was also very groundbreaking. But here's the difference. De La, 3 Feet High and Rising, produced by Prince Paul. Tribe, first album, produced by Q-Tip. There's a song on Tribe's first album called Push It Along. That's the intro song, first song on the album. The drum break is incredible. There's a line in there where Q-Tip famously says, boom, the bip, the boom bip indicates to the brothers that we be on the flip tip.
The boom, the bip, the boom bip indicates to the brothers that we be on the flip tip.
So Tila Rock says boom bap, Q-Tip says boom bip. We're hearing for a second time where the MC is mimicking the kick and the snare and referring to it as a boom and a bap, or a boom and a bip. Tip is mimicking the kick and the snare of the drum pattern. And that drum loop was sampled from a song called Thank You for Letting Me Be Myself by Junior Vance. That classic album from Tribe pushed the culture forward a little bit, but still didn't define the sound. And also, if it did become the definitive album, why do we not call it Boom Bip? I wouldn't have liked that if they called it Boom Bip. That sounds a little nervous to me, but I'm just saying. So if you fast forward to 1992, we get another crew coming out of Brooklyn. That crew was called Black Moon, with their Beatminerz produced hit, Who Got the Props. That record was groundbreaking. And then you get the Beatminerz produced album from Black Moon in 1993 titled Enter the Stage. Now, for my money, this album changed hip hop production and the sound and became the definitive blueprint for what we know as boom bap. The songs on the album and the single, Buck 'Em Down, crazy. Listen to that production. The chopped up drums, the jazz samples, the cracks in the vinyl, the sonics, that's where it starts to come together. They, in my opinion, also added that low-end aesthetic that was missing in prior production. So when you listen to Beatminerz, you start to hear the bass lines from the low-pass filters of the samples and the samplers, and that added another dimension. So you get the chopped up drum patterns, soul samples, jazz horns, along with the low-pass filters, and now this is the brickwork for what became known as boom bap. The SP1200, the MPC60, and the S950 were all already 6 years old by that time. By the time you get into the stage, the three main prevalent samplers in use were already 6 years old. So that gave producers quite a few years to master those devices. After Enter the Stage, you start to see producers emerge like Large Professor, DJ Premier. Pete Rock was already around. He was a little earlier, but to me, he still didn't quite have the sound yet. You get LES And of course, Q-Tip starts to perfect his craft. And now the interesting thing for me is those forces combined to create what I feel is the definitive boom bap classic, Illmatic. Enter the Stage is the beginning of the genre, and Illmatic is when the genre became perfected. Boom bap was born with Enter the Stage and perfected with Illmatic. I listened to both albums before I sat down to make this video, and I was blown away by the production on both albums. I'll say this, Long Live the Kane is the high school diploma and the associate's degree. Enter the Stage is the boom bap master's degree, and Illmatic is the boom bap PhD thesis. Get in those comments and let me know what you guys think. And with that, I'll leave you with a BBK salute. Peace.